Канал Баграмян 6 – это полезная информация для всех, кто выбрал Армению местом для жизни. Важные новости, анонсы событий, интересные факты и многое другое в ежедневном формате. Регулярные рейсы Ереван, Сочи-Ереван запустила компания Fly One Армения. Они будут выполняться 4 раза в неделю – по понедельникам, четвергам, субботам и воскресеньям. Билеты можно купить на сайте авиакомпании. Стоимость билета в одну сторону от 92 евро. А 28 марта компания Red Wings запустила регулярные рейсы Ереван, Нижний Новгород, Ереван. Международная экологическая инициатива «Неделя плогинга» стартует в Ереване 9 апреля. Plogging – это экологическое движение, участники которого совмещают пробежки со сбором мусора. Получается два хороших дела сразу – спорт плюс забота об окружающей среде. Движение Plogging зародилось в Швеции в 2016 году и быстро стало международным. Пробежка участников плогинга в Ереване берет старт в Разданском ущелье. Все подробности на странице мероприятия в Фейсбуке. Участников просят зарегистрироваться заранее. Новость для всех, кто интересуется инклюзивным искусством и хочет найти его в Армении. Сегодня, 30 марта, в Малом театре покажут танцевальный спектакль «Ne me quitte pas» «Не покидай меня». Как говорят организаторы, это танец о любви, ностальгии и памяти, который сопровождается откровенными интервью самих танцоров. Это первая танцевальная группа Армении, где люди с особыми потребностями выступают вместе с людьми без каких-либо ограничений. Начало спектакля в 19:00, адрес улица Абовяна, 11. Полезная информация для всех, кто думает о поездке в Европу. В Армении для иностранцев доступны следующие вакцины: Спутник V, Спутник Light, AstraZeneca, Moderna и Pfizer. Все они доступны также в виде повторных прививок, бустеров, которые можно ставить через 3-6 месяцев после первичной вакцинации. Moderna и Pfizer также доступны для детей и подростков от 12 до 17 лет. Сделать прививку иностранцы могут только в мобильных клиниках. Их всего 4 на площади Республики, в Рио-молл, Россия-молл и Ереванском государственном университете. График работы мобильных клиник разный. Лучше уточнять его по номеру горячей линии мэрии. Номер вы найдете в описании к видео. Мой коллега Арсен Саркисов поговорил с Арменом Авакяном, директором по развитию бизнеса в компании Hexact, о возможности карьеры и развития в IT-сфере Армении.
The world is rapidly changing. Now, even more so than ever before. Big data, artificial intelligence, and cloud computing have become the new norm. These technologies will improve our lives, make us more productive, and allow us to better focus on what's truly dear. We believe that these technologies should not be limited to the elite, to the few, but should be universally accessible to the many. That is our calling. That is our mission. That is our purpose. We are Hexact. Hexact. Access the future.
Добрый вечер. Вы смотрите канал Баграмян 6, и сегодня у нас в гостях Армен Авакян, соучредитель и директор по развитию компании Hexact. Armen, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you. And let's start from some overall facts. What does Hexact do?
Hexact is a data company. So what we primarily do and what we think the vision is and what the future holds is that ultimately 20 years from now, big data and AI is going to be a key player in everything that we do. If you're a business, if you're a teacher, if you're a policeman, if you're a doctor, you're going to use some sort of big data and AI. So what we do is that we say that these tools of titans, this AI and big data platforms, and they're only accessible to the very, very large players now. Because you need a lot of resources and a lot of money, and you need a big team, right? Developers and data engineers, etc. We think that big data and AI should be universally accessible to everyone. And that is what we do. We actually take big data and AI tools and make it accessible to every single person on Earth that doesn't require any type of resources. And most importantly, it doesn't require any type of coding or technical skills. So it's a point-and-click platform that gives you access to things like Amazon data, Google Big Data. It gives you access to AI tools that process that data and allows you to be a better version of yourself.
I see, that's very interesting. And you said that you need a big team of people. So basically, do you have developers here in Armenia?
We do have developers in Armenia. Our team is about 45 people, more or less. Probably about 35 is more technical engineers and staff in the coding area. We're growing, that's the key, I think. Really, the platform itself is more like an operating system. So we're not the actual AI or the data source, but we're more like the operating system. So about 45 people right now, but we hope to expand to 100 people by the end of this year.
You reached an impressive growth of 400% last year. So what's the secret of such success?
I think there's a couple of things that go into success and growth. I think the key and number one and the most important is our community, our user base. We always say that we don't create products for the users, we create products with the users. And because we believe that with them, together, we are stronger. That's definitely one of the key components. And I think the second key component is the team. The team has to believe in the vision, has to believe in what you're trying to accomplish, because ultimately, we are trying to change the world for the better, and we are going to accomplish that together with our team.
Oh, great. So, and do you organize any special training for those people who are intending to be your employees?
Absolutely. We have training programs in place. We have training programs that are across all of the different functions, like, for example, English, or presentation skills, communication skills. So these are things that all of the different functions would require. And we have rolling processes where it's a continuous process and you can always have these types of trainings. And then we also have specialized sort of niche trainings where required, which would be more like coding skills or data engineering skills or whatever is required. That part we usually outsource or we bring in experts to do it. But when it comes to the more cross-platform ones, those are ongoing and rolling. So yeah, of course, if you have a team, you have to train. There's a really good saying. The CFO asked the CEO, what happens if we train all of these people and they leave? Yeah. Well, the CEO answers, what if we don't and they stay?
Yeah, that's perfect. And do you accept any interns or only professionals?
We hire across all of the different experience levels, starting from interns. So if you have no experience, but you're smart, you need a minimal amount of sort of skills at least, but we can teach you the technical stuff. All the way up to senior developers or team leads or PMOs, etc.
I see. And in general, what IT specialists are in demand in Armenia right now, in your opinion?
I think the highest demand there's a demand across all of the different coding languages, so it's not really language specific. But I think most of the demand and where we're seeing that there's a lot more demand than there is supply is the medium to high experience area, so senior developers or mid-level developers. There's a much higher demand in the Armenian market than there are supply. When it comes to the juniors, it's a little bit easier. You can always find some juniors, but when you go up to mid or senior, then it gets really complicated.
I see. Now, many people, specialists, are coming from Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. What do these people bring to Armenia, in your opinion, in terms of
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, first of all, I think that when you're living in an ecosystem like Armenia, and you're in this sort of startup IT ecosystem, you're always comparing your skills to everybody else in the ecosystem. So even if you're the best or you're the top 5 percentile, it's very difficult to really get scale on what's happening in the rest of the world because you're also busy on the day-to-day, you have a whole bunch of coding stuff to do, etc. So from that perspective, I think the first thing that's going to happen is we get to kind of figure out where our muscles are in terms of the rest of the world, or at least the region, just to figure out, are we better, less better, where we stand. So that's pretty cool because that also gives opportunity for growth. I think the second thing that's going to happen in terms of us being an employer is that we get to figure out whether the value for money that we're paying for here with the human resources that we currently have, is it actually value for money or is there a bubble effect happening? And I think when you have an influx of specialists that kind of balances it out, So again, it's a supply-demand balance, and we get to pinpoint where that price point really should be versus where it currently is. But I think the crucial component is that when you get an influx of these foreign sort of experts, they bring a different culture. They're used to a different way of doing things, which is great. When you get mixes of different cultures and different corporate cultures especially, then you always get something that's a little bit more special. We can always teach something and they can learn from certain cultural aspects that we have. And of course, we can learn something from them and start to build on that side. So these cross-cultural sort of collaborations and teams usually give the best result.
All right. And does Armenia have enough professionals to meet the demand of those companies who are coming to Armenia from Russia and other countries?
Well, as far as I've spoken to the Russians and the Ukrainians and Belarusians, etc., that are coming in, they're not really looking to only hire from here. Usually what happens is that they open up a satellite office, or like a smaller satellite office here in Yerevan, and they bring in a certain amount of their team from Russia or Ukraine or wherever they're coming from. So it's not necessarily they're just opening up the company and hiring 50 people. They probably are bringing in over a bigger team themselves, and then they're hiring supplemental resources to kind of fit that team. So that's one part of it. So I don't think it's a huge impact on the supply side. But also on the demand side, there's a lot of freelancers and solopreneurs that are coming over that they're more than happy to freelance for you, or more than happy to find a job here. So again, I think that balances it out. I don't think Armenia, the ecosystem of Armenia, needs to worry about handling the capacity, because capacity will come with it.
I see. And for those people coming to Armenia, what's the biggest advantage of the local market and its biggest disadvantage?
Well, I think the biggest, this is very straightforward. This is almost like general knowledge. The biggest advantage is value for money, really. The value you get from, even though there might be a little bit of a bubble effect, the value you get from your developers and from that IT core and the engineers versus the amount you pay is still great. So that's definitely the key advantage. I think the key disadvantage is scale. So, we're small, there's not a lot of Armenians in general, there's not a lot of Armenians in Armenia in general. So when you get to that area where you want to scale to, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, then obviously a lot of problems start to happen. But I think if you're going from 0 to 100, then you should be okay. After 100, you really start seeing that problem of scale.
I see. And for those intending to open a company here in Armenia, which part of the market is the best to explore in your view?
Well, I think if you look at the IT ecosystem in Armenia, the best place that I would put my money in this country is product. So it's not an outsourced company, it's not a professional services company, it's not a deep tech company or an AI or a deep tech sort of cutting edge company. It's a product company. They built their own product and they want to sell it outside. Hexact is a good example of that. Crisp, PixArt, all of these are really good examples of product companies. They have their own product and they're selling their product on a consumer B2C or a B2B level. I think that's where we shine.
Last but not least, some general advice for those who are intending to open a company here?
Oh, that's a very good question. General advice would be the following. You don't really want to compare apples to oranges. I'm from the US myself. I'm a diaspora Armenian, and I always say if you start comparing, Silicon Valley to Yerevan or Moscow to Yerevan or Kiev to Yerevan, it's apples and oranges. It's very difficult to compare. So what I would really focus on is not necessarily the IT side of things or the ecosystem. Take the ecosystem as it is and try to work within that. But what's really where we shine, and I think my advice would be, focus on the quality of life of your employees. If you look at companies that have employees in Russia outside of Moscow, so the nightlife, where they can go, the bars, the wine places, so all of these types of things are not necessarily at its best, but here you are in the capital city, Yerevan. So even when you compare, here you can always go to Cascade and have some wine. You can always go out clubbing and you can go to bars, you can go to clubs, you can go sightseeing, go to the opera, you can go to the symphony, you can do whatever your hobby is. And that ecosystem here in terms of quality of life exists because we are a capital city. So the managers, the team leads, the PMOs, etc., they actually want to live in Yerevan because it's fun to live here.
Armen, thank you so much for such an
My
informative
pleasure.
interview.
Thank you very much.
Вы смотрите канал Баграмян 6. До встречи.
Подписывайтесь на наш канал здесь, на Ютубе, в Телеграме и до встречи.